Good afternoon. I've visited my home county again, down in Cheshire, just to see the Stanier team. They're probably a day away from finishing. Maybe they'll finish today, maybe tomorrow morning. But they're planting today 2 varieties in this block. One variety in this field that I'm walking in now, which is called Brooke. It's been planted in this field, and then in the next field over there where the guys are working now is a variety called Pirol. Stanier's usual team out, I think, 2 destoners and 1 bed tiller and 1 planter and a floating tractor which is on supply run bringing seed and then used to rip up headlands that have been trampled down, and also now one of them is just going round power harrowing the headlands so that there's a smooth path for the sprayer to turn on. The reason there's 2 different varieties will largely depend on when these are harvested and then stored. So the guys tell me that this Brooke variety will store for a shorter period of time than the Pirol variety, which is a denser potato which will store for longer periods of time, and that'll be the one that gives you your crisps come winter time, or now actually this sort of time of the year, so April, May. It won't be long until the guys start taking those out of store and they will go off and be made into lots of yummy crisps. So they're still in store now from last year. So it's now the end of April, and the potatoes that they planted this time last year are still in the store at the farm, and they will be taken out when these guys are finished planting, and they will wash them and grade them again, make sure there's no rots, and then send them off, and they will be made into a popular brand of crisp. Okay, kicking off with the bed tiller here is a Standen Powervator 400/140. This machine makes 2 full beds for the destoners. So Zach is running his tractor wheels offset to the rest of the guys, if you like. He's half a bed out, and the reason for this machine is to create a nice tilth that's presented to the destoner with reduced clods and crop residues broken down from last year, and just getting enough soil for the destoner to come along, scoop it up and sieve that out and leave a nice bed for the planter. So if you look at this, you can see that the ridging bodies on the back of the bed tiller are not all at the same height. Now, because he's making 2 full beds, the side of the field that he's working to, if he puts all of those ridging bodies down at full depth, he'll end up with odd sized beds. So he runs it half depth, and then when he comes back around, he runs it at the correct depth for the machine that's going to follow, and then all the beds are even then. That's preset on it, so he's got that set up in his tractor, so each time he turns, he presses one of the buttons on his Command Pro lever, and it's just preset to switch the bodies each time he alternates. So one body is one way and on one button, and then if he's turning the other way at the other end of the field, he hits a different button and it alternates the beds. But it's all preset, so he's got headland management
protocol set up on this. So when he hits a button, the machine lifts, PTO switches off. As he turns, the ridging bodies sort themselves out to whichever side he's going to, and then he's ready to turn back into the work then. So he's only got one button press effectively. So looking at the front of the 6215R here, which has a granular applicator. Now it doesn't look like there's anything coming out of it because it's applying 30 kilograms per hectare. So you have to look very, very closely to see what's actually coming out of it. This product is to reduce the nematode population in the soil. So these nematodes are the little microscopic creatures that nip off the roots of the potato. So as soon as the potato gets some moisture around it, a bit of warmth, and it starts to send out shoots, the nematodes will start to nibble at them, and then the potato will fail ultimately because it can only do that for so long before it dies off. This applicator is connected into the tractor and it switches on and off as per the boundaries of where the planter is going to plant to. So as soon as it gets to the headland, it stops, and as soon as the planter that's following gets to the headland, it stops. So the product is only applied exactly where it's needed, so there's no over application. This is expensive stuff, you don't want to waste it.
Walking backwards up the field because that's where the light's coming from. So yeah, we've got two destoners on duty today. The Stanier team run the Pearson Megastar, which is a smaller, older machine, but nonetheless still good, useful machine, and the mentioned Grimme CS150, which is a faster, more modern machine, pulled by one of their new toys this year, which was 6155R. Not a new 6R, but a new 6R, if you know what I mean.
Okay, so looking at the Destoner here, starting with the CS150 from Grimme. This is going to come along and scoop up the bed that the bed tiller has left behind. So at the front there are some shares. There's like a massive spade, the width of the machine goes underneath, scoops up that bed, and then it goes over the stars that are at the beginning of the machine. The stars bash the soil around, push most of it through down into the bottom. Anything that's too big to go through the stars gets carried on over the back to where there's a web. The web shakes everything. If there's something that can be broken up, then the webs will break it up, and then if it still doesn't want to get broken down, it carries on to the back of the machine, and the conveyor places it in the wheelings for in between the drills. Okay, you can only see the inside of these destoners when they're turning at the headlands because they are designed to be full of soil. That's their job, and there's as much of the machine that you can utilise, the better it is. So in very slow, tricky conditions, you can lift the back of the machine up so that it holds the soil further down, but in this light soil they can have the machines at a reduced angle because the soil is just going to fly through them. It's really nice light soil. So you can see on these destoners that when they're turning, they have to switch the PTO off because obviously the angle that they're turning at is quite sharp, so you don't want that PTO getting wrapped around working at an extreme angle because it's a long shaft and long shafts don't like extreme angles. They also have a steering axle on the back because the nature of the machine, if you didn't steer it you would need a much bigger headland, and the headlands are not as productive as the main part of the field, so they can steer the machine out of the work, reverse up and steer it back into the next row. Okay, so with the planter here, and it's just finishing off this headland in this field, and then coming up we can see the fertiliser applicator on the front. This is carried on its own wheels, and it applies fertiliser in bands exactly where the potatoes are going to be planted behind. It's not section control, it's just metered off the wheel in the applicator itself. They're hoping to get a solution where it will be able to shut off accurately at the end of each row, like the granule applicator on the front of the bed tilling tractor. Okay, so we can see Chris here on the planter. He's been resupplied by somebody on the loader, so bringing fertiliser, bringing seed potato. This is the best solution if you can achieve it to keep the planter running, because the driver hasn't then got to get on and off, and he's not going to walk to the loader, and he's not going to drive back to where the supplies have been brought to the field. He can just keep planting, stop at the headland, tip the seed in, and he can carry on. Perfect. So we're looking down into the heart of the GB215 planter here. These are the belts that I mentioned. These sort out the potatoes, kind of like a automatic grading system, if you like, for the seed. So the potatoes get put down and presented to where they drop into the ground in an orderly manner, so that you don't get 2 and then 3, you just get 1, 1, 1, and that's how the potatoes are spaced out. Okay, looking underneath the planter, you can see the potatoes are getting dropped in. It's not sporadic or uncontrolled. These potatoes are getting dropped in with a preset measurement. So in the cab, Chris will say, right, we're going to plant this variety X amount of centimetres apart, and that's how many potatoes the planter will drop in. There's a chemical, and as you can see, it's only been sprayed exactly when the potatoes come down, so it's not getting over applied, it's not wasted. Again, like the granules, it's expensive, so there is no waste in this operation if possible. Okay, so in the cab here with Chris, he's got quite a lot going on. There's, starting nearest to the camera, you've got 2 control boxes for the planter. So one will be settings and monitoring. The other one is for adjusting things like the hopper, so you can see the hopper tips up as the seed level drops. The hopper tips to keep that seed fed onto the belts at all times. Then further forward he's got the chemical applicator control system. Then further forward from that he's got the main tractor screen, which is monitoring 2 cameras underneath the planter to make sure the belts keep turning and they keep sure the metering system's working correctly. And then at the very front there's another John Deere screen which has got all the maps. So Zach on his tractor will be creating maps with the Starfire system and the boundaries for where all the potatoes should be planted to, and then that also ties in with the spraying maps, so when the sprayer comes along, the sprayer man doesn't have to switch things on and off, it does it automatically through the John Deere system. So as it approaches headlands it switches off, and as it turns round and then re-enters the main crop, it will start to switch on again. And this is linked all through their system for fertiliser application and everything.
imagine that every roundabout in the whole world is like this. You wonder where all the fuel came from, wouldn't you?
Okay, so we've got that extra tractor that I mentioned earlier. It's quite important really, moving supply trailers around with seed so that the loader's not going to travel too far, and ripping up headlands when the guys are finished in one field, and coming back with a power harrow to level out any corners and headlands where the spray is going to turn when these spuds are started to grow, because they're going to need quite a lot of upkeep with the crop sprayer. So it's important to leave the fields in really nice order. Okay, that's enough waffle from me. Let's just have some tractor footage, shall we? Nice fleet of John Deere's here. 6215, 6195, 6155 and 6530, I believe, with the Manitou loader, and yep, a full array of potato equipment as well. The Standen bed tiller, Pearson Megastar, Destoner, CS150, Grimme Destoner, and of course the GB215 planter. As always, I'm going to have to get used to saying, if you've enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up. If you've got any constructive feedback, please leave it in the comments. If you want to ask any questions, fire away. Comment, rate and subscribe. Thank you very much for watching.